Hi everybody. All right, I am sort of back, mostly. So yeah, I reported last Friday I was down with the flu, and so I just did a quick vid on launching that Escape and I. We've done a great collaboration around counterfeit chains, so check that out. I'll probably make a video on that soon as well, just to cover the actual testing and the data in video format versus just article. But yeah, I got the flu really started last Wednesday, and I'm only just back today. I was still basically horizontal all day yesterday. It has been a miserable period. I haven't been laid up like that I don't think I've been that sick for literal decades, where I've been flattened for over a week. So it's been a bit of a fun run on things that continued. Anyway, since I am now so far behind on obviously where I'd like to be with a bunch of the testing stuff going on, so I won't have anything to update on a few fronts for a little bit, as I've got to get on top of everything again and then get back up spooling those along. Thought just for fun to just get back on the horse, delve into, I've sort of missed delving into some just general fun topics in this space, as I get waylaid with many other things. And I saw recently there was an article by Escape Collective, and I think in some other places as well, about Sram's half-link chain patent. So it's not a new product, it's something that may or may not ever come to fruition. But I found that interesting in just the reasons why they're looking at potentially bringing out a half-link chain. So what is that and why? Because it also, I guess on the back burner to have a closer look at again, is a product on the other side of that is out and has been out for a while, which is Enduo's chain system, which is basically the opposite of a half-link chain. It's like a double-link chain, which is aimed to go that path for efficiency. So just for fun today, let's have a quick look at what is a half-link chain and what would be behind it, potential benefits, and what do we think, as well as contrasting that to what Enduo have out with their basically double-link chain, what they're claiming, and what do we think of that? And just see, but just a fun little area. There's not a lot of, I guess, new standards really around, especially about the, say, pitch of chains or going to half or double links. So it's relatively novel compared to what we're normally used to and used to having a look at. So yeah, be keen to know what you guys think. And this is just a fun little one to delve in back, as I still recovering. So I don't know how much of my normal 68 IQ I'll have. I might still only have about 6.8 IQ. So I'll try not to be too much of a vague weirdo, but here we go. So what is a half-link chain? It is actually, in my view, a little bit of a misleading terminology. So we can see what is called the half-link chain is on the top, and we have a normal chain down the bottom. By normal, we'll say that it is normal because it has the inner link and outer link design that we are used to, whereas with a half link there is no inner and outer link. Each link is exactly the same. The reason why the terminology, I feel, is a little bit misleading is that still each actual link is the same pitch. It's still 1/2 of an inch or 12.7 millimeters in between each pin. That is exactly the same on a non-half link chain, where we have an inner and an outer link. Still that distance between them is 1/2 of an inch or 12.7 mil. So if you're running a single speed like a BMX or a track bike, your chainring will not care at all, nor will your cog, if you're running a, we'll say, normal half-inch pitch chain with an inner and outer link, or a half-link chain, where just every link is the same instead of having an inner or outer. So it's not half the link size or pitch. You're not doubling the number of links that you have by having a half-link chain for the same length of chain. You have the exact same number of links. The reason why this chain came out was especially for BMX racing. Depending on the course you're racing, riders would adjust their chainring sizes or cogs to get the correct gearing for that course. And they don't want to, if they need a larger, say, ring and cog, Therefore, they have a longer chain. Now they need to adjust their rear wheel in the horizontal dropouts. You can get a better adjustment if you can adjust it to the right length by cutting just one link out, as opposed to with a traditional inner and outer link plate. You can only adjust the length of the chain in pairs of links. So you basically can get a better tune or better chain length adjustment with a half link chain versus what you can achieve with an inner and outer link design. And so that's pretty much the entire story of how it came to be. So with your BMX and track bikes with horizontal dropouts, where you need that to adjust for different cog and ring sizes, your half link chain just enabled you to adjust to that better. So there are no inherent, say, efficiency advantages or strength advantages with a half link chain versus a normal inner and outer link plate chain. Both can be made super strong or not so much, just depending literally on the overall design and materials and manufacture. Typically, or to date, half link chains have only been used with single speed systems, unless it's like a hub gear or gearbox. They're not designed or been made for shifting. As you could see, they're generally pretty wide. They're typically, say, a 1/8 internal width chain standard, like a track chain. So normally a pretty big, beefy chain. So where SRAM's article around their proposed half-link chain is interesting is that it is focused on improving shifting. So not something that has previously been associated with half-link chains before. SRAM are looking at the half-link chain design as potentially a way to improve shifting speed. So that's quite interesting. Still any images from articles, just in case I'm crossing over copyright. But basically what the patent images are indicating around what's behind what they're doing and how it would improve or double shifting speed is more or less they're sort of focusing on this step part here, where they're saying, look, within the one link, we basically, try that again. Within the one link, we are able to get an inner and outer link type interface within our single 12.7 millimeter pitch. So this stepped area here is what the main focus is on, saying, hey, we can achieve that within that one link, and we can use that to an advantage to get shifts to occur, lightning fast or twice as fast. Do I think we will see anything come out on this front? No, I don't. I think, like a lot of patents by especially the large manufacturers, I think they're just kind of having fun and potentially trying to cover bases for the future. But even if all their hopes and dreams around shift speed were to come true with what you could do with a half-link chain, I mean, even as they are now, our shifting speeds are pretty darn impressive. And if you were to halve that shift time, just how much of an advantage is that going to deliver someone versus potentially a whole lot of other things that could be delivered upon in cycling? And the level of overall cost to bring something like this really up to speed would be, it still wouldn't be quite small, even though it's just a chain. I mean, here's a traditional kind of looking half-link chain. For a derailleur bike, things are going to need to change quite a bit. Obviously, we can't have these pins sticking out. Like, it needs to be a very thin chain, like our modern 11, 12, 13 speed derailleur chains are. The correct amount of lateral flex needs to be inbuilt into these chains so that they can handle the chain line angles whilst delivering all the wonderful stuff that our existing chains already do. So there would actually be quite a lot of engineering into that new chain design, with quite a lot of prototypes and testing. It would be quite a big thing overall to bring out a half-link chain made for, say, 12, 13 speed derailleur bikes. And so, but then even after, let's say they manage to do that and it's magnificent and all their hopes and dreams come true and it delivers double the shift speed, so even on the front shifts, I don't know if that would be worth it compared to potentially a whole lot of other things they could focus on that would deliver an overall bigger advantage to the cyclist. I mean, if you're there, for sure, like you would take it if a front shift could be completed in, say, 0.4 of a second instead of 0.8. Perhaps in certain key situations, in certain key moments for races, maybe that equals something. For most people in their cycling, it's not. If SRAM could, for instance, keep their amazing wear life of their hard chrome chains but make them efficiency-wise a match for some of the much faster chains like we see from YBN, I mean, we're talking typically around a 2-odd watt difference in efficiency between a YBN 12-speed chain versus a SRAM 12-speed chain. So that's making them very popular amongst racers for race chains. SRAMs with their hard chrome and their excellent longevity make them great training chains. I'm sure a lot of cyclists would go, hey, you know what? Can you give me both? Can you give me a super, super long-lasting chain that's also super fast? I'll take that 2-odd watts efficiency gain at 250 watts all the time, all day long, over a front shift that takes me some fraction of a second faster, because the number of times that is going to make a tangible difference to me is going to be a lot smaller than a all-the-time faster chain. And also, any advantage that Halflink may have, if they believe that they could get double the shift speed at the front now, and that is likely to be at the moment a fraction of a second, then that number is just going to get smaller as any work and iteration on front shifting improvement continues with their existing, obviously, derailleur, shift ramps, teeth profile tech and chains that we have at the moment. So if things were projected to stay exactly the same and no improvement for the next decade, and Halflink could deliver something whiz bang, maybe that's a path. But if shifting is going to continue to improve, which I'm sure it is, and there'll be less and less bike smash incidences with people yelling, F-SRAM, then the potential advantage for Halflink is just going to become a smaller and smaller gap. And at some point, you've just really got to say which is the better path to keep investing in. Zoom through some of the usual, anecdotal comments around Halflink chains, because typically they're always incorrect. Well, technically incorrect, I should say. One is that, so you often see Halflink chains don't last very long. Halflink chains may not last very long, but that's not because they're a Halflink. It's just literally what the chains are made from. So just like basically really all other BMX chains or 1/8 chains, typically they are made of a much lesser metal quality versus your top 11 and 12 speed chains, and they do not have the wear resistant platings and treatments like, say, hard chrome or any type of DHA chromium carbide treatments on the pins and rollers. They're just overall a much lesser quality in terms of wear life than what your top 11 and 12 speed chains are. So they just aren't even in the same ballpark. A lot of people can sometimes think, for my single speed commuter, I'll run that as a 1/8 standard. So I'll put a 1/8 cog and chainring on so I can run a 1/8 track chain. That big beefy chain is going to be super durable. And they do not hold a candle to how long lasting just a quality 11 or 12 speed chain would be if they had run a 11 by 128 chainring and cog. So it is no competition at all, even just from a purely metal quality and treatment quality for almost all BMX or 1/8 chains or Halflink chains versus quality 11 and 12 speed chains. The other reason is simply workload. Especially on a BMX, you have a very small chainring, so the actual chain tension for a given power is much higher than what would be experienced on a road bike with road-sized chainrings. So for 250 watt pedaling load, if you have a 22-tooth chainring, the chain is under much greater tension load every articulation. It's also typically going to be a shorter chain because you've just got one small ring and one small cog. So the total number of links in the chain is going to be quite low. So your workload is distributed across a much lower number of links. So it's going to wear the already not very long-lasting metallurgy you have on those chains. That workload is hitting them harder from all fronts. You see, read or hear that half-link chains can be more efficient versus other 1/8, say track and BMX chains that are typically also going to be what's called a bushing design, like I think practically all half-link chains are at the moment. There is no advantage at all. We'll quickly zoom through why bushing design chains are generally worse for efficiency versus what we are used to with our derailleur chains. So if we have a look at a derailleur chain there, we can see that the roller sits directly onto, hey, where's my marker? Sits directly onto the inner link plate shoulders. Sorry, my marker's not working. So when your link articulates around your chainring and cog, basically that inner link plate is articulating around the pin and inside the roller. So you've got just those friction surfaces occurring there. With a bushing design, bushing design chains basically have an extra cylinder in there called the, would you believe, bushing. So directly underneath the roller is the bushing, and then the pin runs inside the bushing. Because the bushing chains that we don't have any that are a derailleur chain, so they are all single speed chains for what we use in cycling. So typically they are not designed with any lateral flex, and the tolerances between the side of the roller and the inner link plate, and then also in between the bushing and the bushing to the outer link and the pin. So the bushing goes to the end of the inner link plate as well. But they are all typically pretty tight, and you've just got this extra big friction surface in there, and they all just typically test quite slow. So Ceramic Speed have done quite a lot of track chain testing for federations, usually leading up to each Olympics, and so far this is why one of the main reasons why the YBN 410 track chain, which is a roller designed just like a derailleur chain, just without the built-in lateral flex, that has been winning the fastest track chain for quite some time now, because it is not a bushing design, so it's getting rid of that extra pain in the ass bushing in there. Bushing chains are also a royal pain to, I guess, lubricate faster, because properly cleaning the factory grease out and getting, especially say, a wax in is a right pain in the butt, and in most cases it's just not worth trying to do that. So track chains like the YBN 410 are a breeze to properly prep and get up super fast on a super fast wax. Another reason why they're having such grand times at Olympics. Whereas your bushing track chains or 1/8 chains, oh, what a pain that is. And even if you do manage to get the factory grease out and wax in, you often get a massive wax bond happening between the roller and the bushing, which is a royal pain to break in. It is just such a pain in the butt. They're even a pain in the butt to get, say, factory grease out and even a top quality oil in. So for most people just using them, if that's what they're using in training or commuting, just run it with the factory grease. They're still going to wear out quickly, and then just by the time the factory grease is giving out, it's time for a new chain anyway. Don't even bother with trying to clean and lubricate them. Actually, Sram wouldn't be looking to make theirs a bushing design chain. That would be nuts. This is just to cover off the general stuff you may see or hear around half links being sometimes either they're inherently more efficient or inherently less. No, it's none of that. They are a bicycle chain. They will have the same inherent properties as any other bushing design 1/8 or single speed chain, and the main competition really is going to be a bushing chain versus a non-bushing chain, where the non-bushing chain is almost always going to win in terms of efficiency, unless something odd is going on. Right, let's take across to have a look at, I guess, the exact opposite of that. Now, they don't call it a double link, they call it something, but this is by Enduo. So we can see that they basically have half the number of teeth. We still have a chain with the same half-inch pitch overall. So, and we don't, I guess we still have, we can see inner and outer link plates because of the way that it's assembled. It's not a half link design in terms of how they're joined, just with half the number of teeth. So it's kind of what we recognize in one sense. But what we can see is that the way this is designed is that this is to lock out these rollers from being able to move within the tooth profile. Let me just zoom down in on this picture that they're talking about here. Okay, so eliminates the relative movement between the chain and the sprocket engaging both sides of the tooth. No movement equals no friction equals no wear. So there's, and we can see that on the non-enduro thing here, they're showing that there can obviously be some movement between the roller and the sprocket tooth, and that would potentially be the same obviously at your chainring side of things. So how much friction and wear in the chain and system may that be eliminating? In my view, it's not much. So the huge majority of your, I guess, power losses in your chain, it's not coming from the roller and the tooth on either your chainring or your cog, especially when they're new. So when you're everything's in tolerance, your roller and your cog teeth and your chainring teeth, there is extremely little movement there. It's not zero. There is some friction wear, but it is very small, which is why if you replace your chains when you should and you're running a good lubricant, you can get, like we see with waxing, say 15,000 kilometers before your chain is worn to 0.5%, and then often you can put another chain onto your cogs and definitely your chain rings, and everything is fine. So the amount of movement and wear there when things are looked after is extremely small. The friction losses in your chain come from the fact that your chain is needing to articulate. So all of these links are needing to bend to wrap around your chainring and cogs, and that's occurring under all of your pedaling load, and because the parts are very small, those pressure loads are very high. So your losses are occurring by the parts of the chain articulating around each other. So as the link is articulating around the pin under literally thousands and tens of thousands of psi pressure load, there's friction loss in between the pin and the inner link shoulders as that occurs, and same with the inner link plate shoulders and the roller bore. That's where your friction and wear is occurring in your chain, and that is why chains wear over time, because your pins are wearing a bit thinner and your roller balls are wearing a bit bigger, and each link can now be pulled a bit further apart. That is not going to change with this chain design. And so, what is going to happen to this very specific engagement here, as the chain links inevitably suffer from elongation wear, as they will, because the same wear load is on those chain parts as every other chain, is a bit unknown. And how, I guess, saving some tiny amount of movement and friction between the roller and the teeth face is going to deliver, say, a 50% decrease in power loss, when it's just not the area where loss and friction is occurring in the system. It's a tiny bit versus everything happening inside the actual links themselves. So in terms of, can this deliver 3.5 times increase in chain lifespan? To me, only if the chain itself is made of some longer lasting stuff versus other chains that we have, and potentially what your rings and cogs are made out of. But considering how long some of the chains that we already have out there, so especially really Sram takes the cake in terms of impressive wear life on their hard chrome treated chains, already that can be something to beat. But inherently, this design, I don't think, is going to give any improvement in, if we were to do this with a control chain, I can't see how it is going to improve the chain's lifespan either. So this is very much one of the ones where I'd love to sort of see tested, and I think like the barrier for entry to prove this is quite low. It's literally, we could run a chain, the same chain on a normal set of rings and cogs and see how long it lasts, and then do the same test with the Enduro rings and cog. And away we go. So same control lubricant and so on, and test protocol, and we would expect to see a significantly longer lasting outcome for the chain with the Enduro system. But yeah, we're waiting on that. I'd love to see it, love to do, obviously, them to prove me wrong, but just knowing what we know with every single time this link needs to articulate and all the pressure loads and parts that need to move with lubrication for that to occur, and that is where chains wear, not between the roller and the tooth face. It's got a little bit of a hill to climb there. Enduro's main target market for this, especially in the cycling space, is really your sort of cargo. So single speed, geared hubs, potentially bike driven. So where longevity of your drivetrain system will be a nice advantage. But again, at the moment, the best way or the easiest way to achieve a longer lasting drivetrain for this type of application would be to try to design your bike to basically run the biggest chainring and biggest cog that is viable to fit within the system, because you're going to have a longer chain, lower chain tension, and the pressure load on the chain and teeth is going to be lower for the same gearing that you need, lesser amount of articulation, which is occurring under lower pressure, and that workload is being spread across the maximum number of chain links. So instead of, say, potentially running a 40-tooth chainring there to a potentially 14-tooth cog equivalent, if you can fit a 60-tooth chainring in there and a correspondingly much larger cog, and then pair that to an already known very long-lasting chain, you're already off to the races in a pretty good way in terms of your awesome longevity that you want to get from that chain and cog and chainring. All right, that better do. Hope you enjoyed a bit of a look into half link, and although it's not the correct term, double link chain versus what we are familiar with in inner and outer link plate chains. And do they have really any legs to deliver us something better than what we are, I guess, familiar with at the moment? As you can tell, I do not think that they will, but let me know if you think I'm incorrect, and that we're going to be wowed by one of these technologies in the future, hopefully not too distant before I'm too old. Not much has really come along to upset the apple cart in terms of what we're familiar with our bicycle chain, and especially, say, derailleur chains, and having mechs hanging out there doing the shifting of gears for us. There is stuff going on, obviously, with regards to belt drive gearbox, hub gears, and that will continue, really, especially now that e-bikes and powerful motors and batteries are, that technology is in a pretty mature place now. There's just a lot of sense to be had when you don't have to worry about efficiency losses because the motor's doing the work for you, to potentially go to a gearbox and belt drive, or belt drive and hub gears. But when our own every sort of watt of pedaling efficiency that we're putting out matters, they're still going to have quite some challenges to try to make much of a dent into the lovely derailleur chain. So it's always anything drivetrain wise. So I kind of love this area, so I tinker around in this space. But I think we're going to be seeing just a lot more iteration of what we have at the moment in the main, and I don't think we're going to get any new fandangle half-link chains or much traction from Enduro. I don't think, but again, let me know if you think I'm wrong and what you think we're going to see. All right, have a great weekend, everyone. I will try to get to comments as always now that I have some life force back, and I look forward to being me again soon, and start making some inroads onto all of the other fun project testing stuff we've got going on. And so I'll be ripping into things next week and try to get back on track. Okay, talk to you soon.